in Muse Talks. Hi guys, welcome back to Muse Talks. And today's episode we have Mr. Juan Foo, who's a producer, educator, and kind of like a legend in our film industry. Okay, maybe during my time lah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Juan, for coming
Thanks for
down
coming
to
in.
the studio. You're such a busy person. It's so difficult to get you. Let's go back in time.
Oh, man.
How
Time machine time.
Yes,
Hey,
correct.
before that, very belated congrats on your last film, Circle Line.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, latest last is a good definition.
Latest last.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get back to that.
Yeah, we'll get back to that.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. Okay, Juan. So we got to know you way back in the 2000, is it?
At the turn of the century, in fact.
Serious?
If you can't remember, it's because you want to block it out, lah.
No.
But I first got to know you guys in 1999.
Oh, serious? Oh, wow. Well, that's
yes.
where you first incepted.
Yes, I think a lot of people would have forgotten, but we worked on a very early series of, guess what, guys? Channel 8 telemovies, which interestingly enough, Muse, as the non-Chinese speaking production company,
You edited,
actually executed. Shah actually
Yes.
edited
Correct.
3 telemovies,
Wow.
right, in Chinese language. It was an interesting, I guess you can say, progressive experiment for the broadcaster. But yeah, that was the first time we actually worked together. Great, interesting experiences on that and also thereafter. And I don't know whether I should probably maybe touch on it a bit, but those days Muse was the only production company who could actually edit on mini DV format.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Which is why
Mini
we
Ds.
actually engaged
Yeah.
Muse, because
Yeah,
at that
I
time it was
see.
very experimental. It was the first foray into digital video, digital broadcasting. Previously, it was very expensive, as you all remember, either film or
Yes.
this very old thing called
Betacam.
Betacam SP, right? Which probably the young
Oh.
kids won't remember.
Yeah, I don't think so. They even sing one.
So from that cassette tape that's so big, it was reduced to a cassette tape that's so big.
Mini disc.
And I mean, Muse, to your credit, y'all were easily the first post house to actually engage that.
Oh, wow.
If you remember.
Yay.
So we actually went around and we asked, hey, who can help us, right? And also kudos to, if you remember, Media 100.
Oh my God, yes.
We were
The
editing
first
on this
editing
format
machine, yeah.
called Media 100. So we actually asked Justin,
Yes.
right, from Media 100, who's actually out there that can actually embrace this new technology. And basically we were introduced to Muse. Very, very interesting to work with you guys because it was a one-stop shop. We did the editing, we did the sound design with Kazuo. We also did the graphics with the original team, Sham, Juan.
Yes.
I think Alex was still around.
Oh, wow.
Shireen also, if Shireen is watching back in the, in
Okay.
USA.
Great. So
but that
all
was
of you have
really,
to watch. Yeah, he's mentioning a lot of people here.
yeah, we mentioned, I'm mentioning a lot of basically the pioneer generation of Muse. It was fun. I think it was very progressive that you guys had this technology where a lot of people felt that it was something of a plaything, but true enough, it became very popular.
Yeah.
And it basically kind of like dominated the entire post-production scene easily for I think maybe 10 years
Yeah.
before the new format
Correct.
came about.
Yeah. MD didn't last that long.
MD
right?
didn't last that long also. It was a very flexible format. So that was the first time.
Ah, I didn't know that.
Wow.
1999, the first.
Chinese telemovies
Yes.
edited
Chinese.
by
Edited
Shah.
by- yes.
Yeah, non-speaking, non-Mandarin speaking.
How do you do it?
editor.
At the time, no Google Translate.
Oh, that's true.
That time no Google.
I mean, come on. we
Friends
all
and
are
stuff like that, I
multi, racial. So you're bound to hear some kind of words, common words that you hear every day in the lift and all that. Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning, ni hao ma.
Ni hao ma, yes.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. And even some dialect also, Chapeng.
Yeah, of course.
Of course. So from there, I presume you guys go to Pontianak or Perth first?
Pontianak first.
Pontianak,
Yeah,
return to Pontianak, right?
Return to
yes.
Pontianak
Another
first.
collaboration between you two.
Oh yeah, definitely. And again, one of those things whereby I think definitely Muse as a friend, as a post-production provider, really stepped up, lah. Right? I'm not saying this because it's a Muse program, but I mean, for an independent producer like myself, it's always good to have support from friends and also people that understand why we do these things, right? So, Return to Pontianak was made, I think, end of '99. But post production was year 2000, 2001.
Right.
And yeah, it was edited in Muse. It was also sound design in Muse also, which again was quite edgy, quite progressive. Again, because I think if on one hand we were independent filmmakers, but on the other hand also the idea was we didn't want to use a lot of old traditional technology to do
Right.
things.
Yeah.
You
So
guys the
we-
first high def, is it that one?
It was the first mini DV,
Mini DV, yes.
to 35 film.
I think it was inspired by the film.
Blair Witch.
Yeah, Blair Witch.
Blair Witch Project, the
so
shaky,
Blair Witch,
shaky one.
yeah. so it was kind of like Singapore's version of the Blair Witch Project, but obviously for Singapore we had a real folklore called the Pontianak, right? So I mean, for those of you who don't know Blair Witch is totally made up. Right,
Yeah.
but Pontianak, when you tell it to people,
not made up.
everybody knows, right? So we made a film called Return to Pontianak with Muse, and yeah, as you said, it's again one of those progressive things. So we shot on mini DV, transferred, and released on 35mm film.
Yeah.
So again, yeah, as a producer, then we were the only crazy people who were doing that.
Right. I guess you guys are much younger back then as well.
Yeah,
huh?
yes, we were. We have the stamina.
You have the stamina, yeah, correct. Because editing it took a bit of time.
Yeah.
What? Okay, who makes this kind of decision? Like, the latest format, MD, and all those kind of things when making a film. Is it the director, the producer, or is it a team?
I think it's a bit of a team, but I think if you fall back on so-called the strategic planning, so to speak, and once you say strategic planning, it's really about the producers. We had to decide what was the best and most affordable way to make films.
Right.
So obviously, I mean, if you have got a lot of budget and
Yeah.
everything, in those days you would shoot on film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would process on film, you would end on film. But for us, we really didn't have the kind of money, right? And then we also didn't have the kind of, I guess, the logistic processes. So we had to reverse engineer a lot of things, right? What can we release on? What can we shoot on? Can we shoot on something that is easy to edit and manipulate? Because if you shoot on film, there is still processing, there's still transferring,
Yeah.
Right.
telecine and stuff like that in those days. But we had to circumvent those. So we had to do a lot of research to say, okay, we can do this with this kind of digital video technology. But also the traditional post houses will say, we don't touch this.
Yeah.
This is, macam consumer level. Right. So if you want us to help you, you must pay us a lot of money. So we had to go with people that believed in this craziness, which
Right.
obviously is you guys. To say, okay, come, let's try and see how we can do this, more affordably with more flexibility. So I think that's the driving force, and I think it will be a decision made by both. Yeah, both the producer and the director say, okay, we can do this. Of course, we can aim high, but if let's say we can't aim high, we have to see what we can actually do within
Yeah.
our resources.
Right.
But that's basically indie films, right? I mean,
That's
it's-
basically
yeah.
independent filmmaking.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, so crazy times. Crazy times.
But still, back then I think it is exciting, that period. It was really very exciting.
Yeah,
there
definitely.
were quite a number of films that was going on also, like in production. Yeah, these days, I guess everyone is going for the bigger budget films.
In a way, yes.
In a way, right?
In a way, yes.
Yeah, there's
Yes.
no more like experimental, unless, people like Michael come. I think he's still trying to do
Oh
that,
yeah, of course.
right?
Yeah, funny you should mention.
Yeah.
I think if you compare then and now, there are more films now, but they follow a certain kind of trajectory. Technology has helped it definitely, right? But I think it wasn't as crazy as before. But then again, maybe because we have all aged and we are all quite mellow, right? But I think the filmmaking so-called spirit is still around, and I think it's really driving those that really want to tell stories, lah.
Is that how the industry still is? Like from listening from your stories, it's
Yeah.
like as if like this group of people, very close knit industry. Is it still the same, that spiritness, or has it changed a bit?
I think it's changed a bit, but in the end, how the industry grows is still dependent on a group of crazy people, right?
So every generation there'll be bound to be
Yeah.
So
Some-
there'll be a generation of people that will say, "Why not?"
yeah.
Right? And there'll be people who say, "No lah, don't do lah."
Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
So I think the why not spirit is still around. But definitely industry has changed, or the community has changed. We can talk about that later. But there will still be crazy people around to say why not or why cannot. Let's do it like that. Right? Which is also very heartening, because in the end it's really about, if you want to tell a story and if you want it bad enough, you will find a way to do it. It's not about the resources,
The budget.
or
Right,
whatever.
yeah.
If you really want to tell it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, further to that, obviously, because maybe now I am slightly more experienced and more mellow. My next question to anybody who thinks about that is, yes, it's a why not, why cannot, but also you must also ask yourself, who is going to watch it on what platform?
Yeah, so I was
Yeah.
just about to ask that. Like,
Yeah, correct.
sometimes artists have this, I got to do it my way, this way.
Yeah.
But in the end, who are you making it for?
Yes,
right?
who are you making it for? Where are people going to watch it? Because if you're talking about the spirit of storytelling, I don't think it has changed.
Right.
But how people watch your story and your film has changed.
Correct.
And that is also a big part of
The different platforms. Huh?
being a
Yeah.
filmmaker. Understand your platforms. Totally.
So, back to Circle Line. Now I can ask you this question. Why this creature? They call it what? A creature film.
feature.
Creature feature.
Yeah.
Right? The first Singapore's creature feature. Are you always like that, going for the first?
Not really. I think for me, it was a challenge. And for me, I would always like to bring something new to the audience. It might sound very cheesy, but I'm always trying to see what is the difference, or what newer things I can talk about in Singapore. So Circle Line was indeed something that was very out of this world for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you do it then? I mean, like, usually
okay.
people do it something that they're familiar with,
Yeah.
easier kind of
Yeah.
things, right?
So this story, I must credit my executive producer, right? My executive producer for
Taipan
Circle
Films.
Line, which is basically Taipan Films. He's the crazier one.
Okay.
So basically, we all shared kind of like the same vision. We told ourselves, okay, in Singapore, in the Singapore film industry, you have your art house films.
Yes.
Experimental art house films, very interesting, very good talent. But the other extreme, you have also your typical Jack Neo comedies,
Yeah.
right? And we always felt that there is something in between,
which is missing, right?
the mainstream film,
Yeah.
right? Which is a film that you watch for entertainment, not necessarily to basically laugh at yourself, but for entertainment. And the other extreme is you watch a film to maybe feel good about yourself,
Yeah.
or to ask questions about
Yeah.
life. So that's macam art house, right?
Right,
So
right,
we
right.
felt that there is a mainstream gap. And that was something that we wanted to test water. So quickly coming back to that, so it was my executive producer that said, I want to make Singapore's first monster film. Let's do it together, or can you help me? Right.
Okay.
So I said, oh, this is very interesting. Never in my mind would I have imagined myself, being part of this team that did Singapore's first so-called monster film. So coming back to the word creature feature.
Yeah.
So the problem that I had was, when you call it a monster film, based on your impression, what would you think of? Oh my God, Godzilla.
Yeah, correct.
Big scale.
Yes.
Godzilla is going to walk across and use MBS as some hurdles or whatever.
Right.
So monster is so big, right? So I told myself, I said, we shouldn't.
Or it could be Monster is Inc.
Yeah, or Monsters Inc. Yeah, even worse, right? That one is super high budget. So I told myself, maybe saying monster is a bit too ambitious, because we definitely don't have a monster budget.
Right.
But I felt that it was an interesting idea to put in people's minds. So for a while, it was actually packaged as a creature feature.
Right.
And if you look at Hollywood terms, there is a term called creature feature,
Features. Okay.
which is something mysterious and unknown, maybe a bit monstrous.
Yes, but small scale.
But small scale.
Gremlins.
Yeah, Gremlins, yeah, exactly, is a
Right.
creature feature, right? Tremors,
Tremors.
those of you remember, is a creature feature.
Right.
But once you say monster movie, then they say, oh my god,
Right.
So I wanted to manage the expectations.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Hence, Circle Line became a creature feature. Kudos to Taipan Films for trying to attempt a mainstream genre for entertainment.
Right.
Is that IMDA funded? Or
Yes.
Okay.
So Circle Line was funded by IMDA, Taipan Films, MM2 Entertainment also came in, and also Finas. We had some money
right,
from
yes.
the Malaysian
Malaysian side.
government. Also. Yeah, so it was put together quite okay lah. Yeah, definitely.
So, as crazy filmmakers, do you always have to depend on such fundings or?
Yeah, funding must be
Yeah.
hard, isn't it, for this kind of indie
Funding is
film,
madness lah.
Yeah.
right?
I think what we wanted to also try to do was to send out a signal to people that this kind of films can be done and it will still need people's support.
Right.
Meaning, investors, partners,
Yeah.
stakeholders, and sponsors. Right? Because what I observed was that when you make, let's say, Chinese comedy, which is maybe like Jack Neo films, it will attract certain kinds of investors and a certain
Right.
kind of audience.
Yeah.
And that world has been already almost saturated. Right? And then you switch to so-called the art house filmmakers, right, who have their own set of investors or people that want to support the artists.
stakeholders,
It's also very different as a stakeholder. So we wanted to kind of like show that okay, you can actually do something in the middle and also draw in future and further stakeholders to make something for everybody to watch.
Right.
Yeah. So in that kind of light, definitely, if we have a government support, we will definitely want to take it. Which again, kudos to the Singapore government,
Right.
also the Malaysian government
Yeah.
that they are looking to support the industry in this way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no doubt, I think government funding quite inevitable lah.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite inevitable.
Is that why you guys have
true.
to have the MRT thing? Very typically Singaporean, right?
Oh no, not really. Funny fact to mention. I think while Circle Line was about so-called the subway system, and there is a bit of hint that we're talking about the Singapore Circle Line, but everything was not actually shot here.
Right.
It
So where
was
is
shot in Malaysia.
Malaysia.
The set was built in Malaysia, and we enjoyed the execution and the operational processes. But we, again, coming back, it's really about finding the correct people and the kinds of partnerships that we can do.
Right.
Yeah, we didn't have a lot of approval if we were going to shoot it in Singapore.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Right,
Yeah, it's so
but
hard.
it's very difficult. But again, Singapore is a small place.
Yeah.
Sometimes bureaucracy and certain levels of I don't want to do extra work kind of comes
correct.
to play, right? And again, we don't blame them because making a movie at this kind of scale, only Hollywood is used to that kind of
Right.
convenience.
Yeah.
But for anybody lesser than that, and for us as a growing industry, as a film producer, it's crazy.
How
You
how
know?
do you then temper your expectation? Like you said, we look at Hollywood movies, right? Hey, they can do it. Why we all cannot? Then you go to the government agencies and sorry,
And
cannot.
now with virtual production,
Yeah, I
probably
mean,
can
like,
do more.
Coming to
Oh.
virtual production. But back
Yeah.
then, how do you?
I think we had to manage our own expectations. But I think our partners were the ones that kind of like push the envelope lah. So a lot of times, because I mean the team that did Circle Line, again kudos to the team, the writers, the director, the art department and everything. I think we tried very hard to push the limit, right? It's about telling ourselves, okay, while we aim high, we also
Yeah.
must be very pragmatic
Yep.
because movie production is not low cost. But also further to that, the idea is always about production quality.
Yeah.
Right. You need to do enough to be persuasive, But if you do just a bit more, you will get out of hand. So there's a lot of QC on our side in
Right.
terms of preparation, in terms of doing, because it's again, Circle Line is a very visual effects heavy a film. So we had to do a lot of prep, pre-visualization, storyboarding, you know. Then when we realized, oh, this one, once we break it down, it's too expensive, okay, redo and everything.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, to quickly jump to virtual productions, I think shooting on volume stages is convenient, but really requires even more planning.
Yes.
Correct.
Right. So I think it's a new toy lah. Now everybody is going through that, right? I
Yes.
think it's a new toy.
Yep.
I like the new toy also, but you must know how to play with the new
Yeah,
toy to
yeah.
make it effective.
Correct.
I think we are still in a very much experimental wait and see kind of stage. But it's again a good thing because maybe, you know, for me, I have a bit more progressive spirit. It's nice to try and experiment, but I think we need to be wiser lah, as producers or filmmakers to fully understand what virtual and what volume productions can do for us instead of jumping the gun, right? If I were to probably refer back, remember last time 3D stereoscopic?
Yes.
Right, there was this huge wave. Oh,
Yeah.
3D is the next thing.
Glasses.
Glasses, stereoscopic, and everything, which was great. But again, that kind of like came and went.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right, the ebb and flow of technology is very obvious for us.
Why
So
do you think that didn't like really hit off?
I think it
The
really
effect
didn't.
is really, really in your face, isn't it?
It was great.
Experience-wise, as an audience,
Yeah,
it's good,
I,
isn't it?
I think that sold a lot of spectacle.
Yeah.
Right,
More
the
than anything.
spectacle, the scale.
Right.
But I think in the end, what grabs you as a consumer is the storyline.
Yeah,
You know, so how many
I
times
see.
will you allow the
Shark
the
to
shark
come
to
in.
go in front of you,
Right,
right?
right.
So in the end, I feel maybe because Singapore's market is also very small, so we can't, a few times of that spectacle and scale,
Right.
then people will get bored. Ah, yeah, I know lah,
Yeah.
3D, you know.
Okay, okay,
So
okay.
I think we didn't sustain that because again, the ebb and flow of consumer nowadays, right, is even more obvious. So that came and went, right? Because I think eventually people wanted to tell, I guess, more authentic stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for virtual productions, again, it's really about the stories. You know, how authentic can they be? Instead of again showing the spectacle and
Get
scope.
distracted by all
Yeah.
these gimmicks,
Yeah,
I suppose.
You can be distracted for a while,
For
but
a
in
while,
the end,
yeah.
it's still about the storyline, right? How real is it, right? And a lot of people will say, oh, you know, look at Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Oh, it's shot on
That's
virtual,
a
but
yardstick.
people also forget that Mandalorian as a myth and as a story brand, right, has been built for 20 years. Because
Correct.
Mandalorian
Oh,
belongs
yeah.
to
Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Star
Yeah.
Wars.
So,
So
it's not new.
It's
Yeah.
not new, right? People remember that. People
Yeah.
grew up on that. That's
Yeah.
why people watch
Yeah,
Mandalorian.
there's the nostalgic
The
pool for it.
nostalgia.
Yeah.
So yeah, virtual is great, but I think we need to study it more and do more to learn more before we say that it's fantastic lah. Yeah.
Do you think the old Juan Foo 25 years ago would give the same answer? Oh, no,
Oh.
we shall go for it, virtual production.
Maybe
Yeah.
maybe.
We probably wanted the guinea pig again.
Yeah,
Go for it.
maybe. I mean, I'm very interested to work on virtual. I mean, I have some considerations for projects, but for me, maybe it's about being burnt before or being more experienced,
Wiser,
wizened, right? From combat wounds lah.
Combat
So
wounds,
it's like,
yeah. Like
you know,
veteran lah, right?
Yeah.
Come back from war.
Yeah, what is it about? You know,
Yeah.
can we
He's-
really work around
He's
it?
focusing now more on the long-term thing.
Yeah,
It's
no.
not like a short-term.
Yeah.
where
In getting involved
you
with forums and talks and all.
Exactly.
I try.
Yeah.
Yeah. I must
So-
share my war wounds lah. Yeah. Don't make the same mistakes kind of thing lah.
Right,
yeah,
right.
yeah. Indeed.
So what's the main I wouldn't say difference because we've been talking about some of the differences in the industry and all, right? So we look at what's next. Where is it growing, or is it
Wow.
like we just talked just now how they are
Yeah,
trying to
especially,
consolidate things,
when you
regulate certain
mention-
things.
Consumers have changed, right? The way
Yes.
they watch or view things, and what exactly are our viewers watching?
And
You
then
know,
with
because
technology changes.
yes,
Wow.
Yeah.
If I know that question, I won't be here, man. I think personally, from my observations, the consumers always change. But in the end, this is going to sound very cheesy,
Yeah.
but in the end, the consumers want an authentic experience. So they want it to look and feel real. I feel for any kind of technology, the main challenge is it only looks real. And sometimes we are too blinded by that. It looks 3D, very nice. Oh, it looks virtual, very nice. But in the end, the consumer will say, do I feel for it?
Inside, yeah. Okay.
So it needs to look and feel real, which is why, coming back to your question, which is why right now everybody is more skewed towards social media because it looks real, it's more immediate.
Yeah.
You know, there's no whiz bang boom, right? But in the end, I think if you're talking about making films and everything, it's still about authenticity lah. Yeah, so it must look and feel real. Maybe it feels real, but it doesn't look real, then you discount a bit. Low budget production, right? But if it looks real, but it doesn't feel real, and then you'll say, it's such a cop out. Visual effects so much, but I'm so
nothing,
tired, I don't feel it.
Okay.
But if you manage to do something that looks and feels real, then you'll be excited. Right, you'll be going back to tell your parents, you'll be going back to tell your friends or whatever to watch it. So I think the consumer is now wiser. Yeah, they want both. You cannot give them one or the other. Yeah.
Very challenging.
Super challenging.
Yeah,
super
time
challenging.
for all the creators.
Yeah, and I think consumers' attention spans are getting shorter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the toughest part.
So will that change the format of filmmaking? A shorter version, but three different stories in one film.
Maybe. Which is why I think serials are back in action.
Yep.
Again, because of OTT players.
Yeah.
Right, the streamers, number one, and also serialized TikTok, serialized. What are the other short formats?
Reels and shorts.
You always have not you always, it's becoming very common, right? I think real 90-minute or more films will be challenged lah. But that's not to say that people will not watch it totally.
Right.
But consumers are much more selective. Yeah. So maybe I would even say that if let's say Return to Pontianak came in now, it probably will not be given a chance.
Right.
Yeah, because a lot of these so-called Singapore early films were all built on curiosity. I'm very curious to this, and that's the only thing I can watch. Okay, come, let me give it a chance. But now everybody is inundated with content. Why should I make an effort to go to the cinema, right? When I can just turn on the TV?
Yeah,
Or why should I make an effort to watch a short film? I can just go on TikTok. So I think consumer patterns have changed, but in the end, what they want is kind of still the same, but the change will affect all of us as producers, as film.
So it's not only specific to Singapore's industry, right? It's global.
I think it's global. I think we feel it more because we have no. Singapore has such a small market size that we don't have a trickle down effect. So when we hit, the impact will quite immediately be felt. That's the biggest problem for producers who want to make stories into screen.
Do you choose genres? Because I realize the films that you made are all different genres, right? So certain directors, they only do this, I like this, comfortable with that. But for you just like horror, Pontianak, and then Perth. That's very different, right?
Okay.
And then creature feature.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, again, I'm not necessarily very genre specific. In the end, it's really about what you can do with your resources.
Okay.
And I think if I look back, Second Line was indeed a very ambitious gamble, but it wouldn't have been done without the team. So if I didn't have this team of crazy people, you know who you are, right? For Perth and for the others, it was also very timely. For Pontianak, obviously, as you mentioned, we were inspired by Blair Witch, right? So I don't think I'm genre specific. I think it's really about what could we do within that circumstance, right? And I've been asked this question before. So for me, I think as a producer that's always looking for new and interesting stuff, I would unlikely want to repeat things that have been done.
Right.
So if you ask me, do I want to do military comedy. Yeah,
Been done.
people have done that before.
Another one.
Right? Or even like, would I want to do another Pontianak film? I also may not
Yeah.
want to unless it's quite interesting.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe I will do a Pontianak military film. Maybe, right? I don't know. But
Genre.
yeah, I think as a producer, it's not really about the genre, but what you can do with the people around you and the market. Lah.
How long did Circle Line was screened?
Not long, man.
Oh.
I mean, amongst other things, I think Circle Line was really affected by COVID.
Yeah.
Oh,
It
that's
was
right.
really affected by the changing of the audience during COVID, right? And on hindsight, I think Circle Line could have been marketed better, but we were very hard pressed for the release time. But the best part was that because we actually kind of like sold it to Netflix already.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it actually is doing quite well on Netflix. It's actually clocking up to 1.9 million hours of viewership.
Oh, wow.
So that's actually very nice.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Yay.
but again, because of the deal, we don't get any revenue. But it's still a good thing to talk about, and it's a good thing to say that we have achieved something, lah.
Yeah, it
So,
stays
catch
longer
it
on the
Netflix,
shelf.
yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
stays longer on the shelf.
Stays longer on the shelf. I think there is a lot of curiosity on it.
Right.
I mean, of course, it's not going to be the top movie or whichever, but I think it says something about what we can do and what obviously we can't within what we can do within the resources of Singapore
Sure.
or
Right.
Malaysia or the region, lah.
So how does Netflix,
Sensitive question.
sensitive question. I mean,
Yeah,
the
no, you
deal,
finish your question first. Needs to be funny.
the deal is different from, whatever films that they will acquire, is it?
I think I'll be very open to
Yeah.
to say that Netflix will cut different deals in consideration for the different expectations of what
Right.
they see your film can be. They will also consider the different potential markets that your film can be shown. So it's really about the demographic, the profile, sometimes the themes and the stories that your film has, right? So you cannot really use so-called the Hollywood mentality to kind of like so-called arm twist the Netflix to buy your content.
So it's the other way around.
Yeah, because again, we are also subservient to the consumer market.
Right.
We're also subservient to the quality of the film. What does the film have that potentially can cater to the streaming market? So there are many layers of considerations. We are just very thankful for Netflix to actually acquire the film.
Yeah, you never know. Probably they give you
maybe.
a series deal.
Maybe. Okay, Netflix,
Netflix.
please hear that.
Circle line, square line, triangle line.
I think it's tough, lah. I think it's tough.
It's tough.
Yeah. Again, because Singapore's market is small. Yeah.
Are you then like have to think of that? Am I doing it just for Singapore's audience? Can I bring it to the region since it's on Netflix kind of thing?
That is a producer's nightmare.
I suppose.
We always think of that, or rather producers always think of that problem. And it was also quite obvious with Circle Line. Because Circle Line, I think it's an interesting idea, but we were very aware that we needed it to cater to a bigger audience.
Right.
Which is also why Circle Line is in Mandarin, right? But then also on hindsight, the Mandarin in Circle Line was a bit too neutral, so a lot of people couldn't place the film.
Right.
So the Chinese who watch it,
The
they'll say,
accent and all, yeah.
this is not China.
Right.
Then the Taiwanese, they say, all the accent is so rubbishy and so low class.
Yeah, so that's
know?
another
So that's a
challenge,
huge
right?
problem. Yeah,
like
absolutely.
for Singapore films.
Yes.
Really, I think even for Malay,
Agree.
But can't we use that
We
as a
can't travel.
signature of a Singapore film? That's us. That's our culture.
Oh, okay. This question has also been posed to me a number of times,
Right.
and the problem is we don't love ourselves enough
Right.
to give ourselves that market. That's the biggest problem for, if let's say you say Singapore film, because for us, if a lot of people watch a film, a Singapore film,
Yeah.
it validates a non-Singaporean to give
To
this film a chance.
Agree.
You see, but
Correct.
we don't even watch enough of our own.
Yes,
You
please,
see?
please support.
That is the biggest problem for all
Yes,
of us.
it's true.
Yeah, and now that you mentioned for Malay language is the same. So
Yeah.
for the Orang Cina, for the Malays, it's also the same because people from China will say, the
Yeah.
Mandarin is so bad. I'm
Correct.
not going to watch.
Right,
But if you go and say, oh, this is the top movie
In
in Singapore,
box
yeah,
office
they'll be
hit.
curious.
Right.
Which is again what Jack Neo is pushing for because instead of saying that this is a movie in Mandarin, please watch it because it's the same language. No, he will go into China and say this is the top movie in Singapore.
Singapore.
So
Yeah.
people will be curious.
Right.
But
Right.
for the rest of us, sometimes Singaporeans are a bit harsh on ourselves.
Yeah,
Yes, yes,
it's
yes.
true.
Right, which is
Correct.
fine, but because of that, people will say even your own countrymen don't support you. Why should we watch? Then that's it, habis,
Yeah.
we can't do the sale,
Correct.
But if we go in and say, this is interesting culturally, this is, so many people watch this and stuff like that. Yeah, people will be curious.
Yeah.
All you need is people to be curious.
Yeah.
Then after that, if the movie is really good in terms of quality or storytelling, then they will say, this one very good. Right. One example is again a top movie now in Singapore. Is it Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong? Is the Thai movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? How to Make Millions
Yes.
Before
Before
Grandma
Grandmother.
Dies.
Yeah.
Right? Fantastic packaging, first time feature filmmaker. He hit all the marks. And it is just, I won't say just, but why is a Thai movie topping all the charts in Southeast Asia? Right?
Yeah.
Because it just went past all the expectations and it did also quite well in Thailand itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Partly because I think
The commercial is very funny.
yeah, of
everybody
course.
knows Thai commercials are the best in the
Thai
world.
production
yeah,
ideology.
the production,
Yeah.
yes.
Goodness.
It's really
Yeah.
But they when you talk about Thailand movies, right? So you know 100% is going to be in Thai. Talk about Filipino movies, Tagalog, right? Malaysian, Malay. When it comes to Singapore, we don't know what language to
Yeah,
push
that's
across.
our biggest problem.
And then come out Singlish, alamak, cringe lah. All right,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
But I think we have to start loving our Singlish. I mean, that's what we are known for, right?
The new generation may have that spirit, which is great. Because I think the new generation of Singaporeans are more compassionate and I think they feel more for Singapore. I hope I'm right. So maybe for new generation Singaporeans, it's okay. But Singlish sometimes is not very well respected on screen. People will say, yeah, that kind of thing. Then suddenly somebody from Ministry of Education will say, that is not standard English. We shouldn't be promoting it.
Yeah,
Then, that's it, habis.
Yeah,
Same
that's
for
it,
same for the Malay drama, right? TV. They
is
are
it?
so insistent on using
Yeah.
official Malay, become kaku, very stiff.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
nobody
it's
speaks like that.
It's a tough challenge. It's
And then
a
when you
tough
watch Malaysian dramas, like wow, the Malay is like really kampung Malay. Everybody can
Yeah.
get into the
Yeah.
They
character.
have how many
well.
dialects, okay?
Yeah,
in that,
And they don't mind
drama.
doing it, right? And everybody gets into the character. People watching it can feel it. In Singapore,
Yeah,
this-
again, that's authenticity, isn't it?
It's a tough bargain lah. So sometimes when we use the word authenticity, right? Maybe Singaporeans we don't like ourselves. Really. We always
Cannot be, what?
foreign better.
Yeah?
Go overseas, get famous, then come back more famous.
Yeah,
that kind of
yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky game, but maybe for the young generation it will change.
Hopefully lah. I mean, it's
Yeah.
really nice that you have high hopes on them.
I think it's evolution and it's progression. Now it's a matter of going into it with the correct spirit lah. I mean, we have all been in the industry for so long. It's a very tough game, but if you choose it, okay lah. Let's see how you play with it.
Do you see it
Yeah.
coming in like this new spirit together? I mean, I saw you give talks in universities and to young people, filmmakers and all that.
I think the younger generation of filmmakers are, how should I put this? They are very woke,
Woke.
Woke.
but they're not
It's a new word.
necessarily
I wouldn't know
worn.
what woke is last day.
They are woke, but they are not worn,
Right.
which is a nice camaraderie, and they are more compassionate. But I think it's a tough market, so they should stick to it if they really want it lah. Yeah, I think the newer people are less toxic lah. Or maybe because I'm beyond all this kind of rubbish. Actually, I'm not beyond, but I try, right?
Yeah, above it all.
Yeah, but I feel that they are
mellow.
yeah,
I
mellow,
don't
correct.
care already.
Yeah.
Whatever happens, happen.
But now they seem to be less toxic, so
Right.
more kawan-kawan, which is nice.
No, I think that's when we're younger. The spirit
so
is
maybe
always
age
that,
lah.
yes.
So that means the young people lah. It's an
Yeah
age
lah,
thing
it's
lah.
basically
Yeah,
the
maybe
young
it's age
people
lah.
lah,
Everybody talks
you
the same
know?
language.
Yeah,
Understanding.
but after a while,
culture.
then they get tired.
They get tired,
Jaded.
or they get bitter, or they get jaded, or they get cynical.
Correct, that's
yeah, exactly. Because it's never an easy game.
Yeah,
And
but
yeah.
overall, then how are we gonna grow as an industry? Because
You think it's gonna grow, not this film
yeah.
industry?
I don't know. I think the film industry is always built on dreams and ambitions. But as practitioners and as a producer, you must always be very aware lah, not be self-delusional lah. Right. So while you want to tell the film story, you still have to make a living.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. You must know how to make a living to tell that great story
Story
that
of
you want
yours.
to tell.
Yeah.
So I think if you have that awareness, I think it's still okay. But the industry is changing faster than it is. AI,
correct.
virtual production.
Yep.
So we will always face that challenge, right? And I guess not to say it in a very cynical way, but it's really survival of the fittest. And if you really want to put your efforts in, what do you lose? What are the sacrifices that you have to make to continue on this path? I think
Yeah.
that's a real question.
You have to do
Yeah.
your check and balance every day.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing, but if you're crazy enough, you will do it. If you're not crazy, okay lah, never mind lah. It's fine also. Yeah, but definitely new generation, younger, yes,
Younger.
maybe less toxic because they are younger. But yeah, it's gonna be a tough consumer road lah to engage the consumer at this kind of so-called film level.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Film can be a 4-letter word lah, just to warn you. Yeah.
Hey, you ever thought of like going elsewhere to fulfill your
I tried.
Other dreams.
ambition?
Yeah.
I tried to go to LA, but I couldn't get in because I had no qualifications.
Not Japan. I thought you were so into the animation.
Animation I considered. I think I was not as talented. But on hindsight, maybe I should have stuck to becoming more of an animation producer instead of a animator, because I cannot draw to save my life. But again, the animation industry also has its own concerns,
Yes.
right, and its
True.
own challenges.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
anything to do with production in Singapore is always tough, lah.
As an experienced producer, what advice can you give to the new young filmmakers, especially in this whole tough and challenging environment that we're in?
Change line. Don't do it.
Besides that, I
Yeah.
think ultimately, if you want it badly enough, you will find ways to do it and achieve it. But in the end, it's really very self-driven lah. Yeah, you have to be very responsible for your actions. For any kind of producer, how badly do you want to tell the story? What sacrifices do you want to make?
I
Right.
see.
Yeah.
And maybe more towards a pragmatic way is, seriously, if you are making a film, you have to think about who and where are they going to watch it, right? And reverse engineer from there. So it's a bit of a personal drive versus who is going to be your market.
Yeah.
Plus
And
some
also,
pragmatism.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm not the guy to say, oh, follow your dreams, people.
yeah, but having a strong network
get lost
also
in
is important, right?
Absolutely. Yes, yes.
Networking.
There's this phrase that's going on YouTube that everybody is using. Your network is your net worth.
Yeah.
Right, and I think it holds very true. I mean, I am very grateful and thankful for friends and old friends like Muse and all my other friends who have fought battles or who have argued and fought with me or against me or whatever through the years. But I think we are professional enough to still give courtesy to each other when we need help. So I think networking and building networks from young is very important. And what I tell some of my students is, we are not encouraging you to be a used car salesman. It's not like, hey brother, hey, blah, blah. You don't have to do that, but you have to make contact so
Yeah.
people know you,
Sincere
you know
lah.
them,
Yeah.
sincere, build a relationship. So yeah, it's not really about being too savvy until you are irritating as
Yeah.
a used car salesman, but
Correct.
it's about saying I'm here, let's do things together, let's build a relationship, see how we
Yeah.
can help each other kind of thing. So
Yeah.
the spirit must be there lah. But
Yeah.
yeah, networking definitely.
Yeah, especially Singapore is so small.
Yeah, Singapore is
Yeah.
too small. Everybody kind of knows everybody.
Yeah. So that's why cannot burn bridges.
Cannot burn bridges, and I think in the end must be professional lah. People have burned my
Right,
bridge
right.
before. Admittedly, I think I burned bridges before, but
Yeah.
try to be professional lah. Apologize, start anew. Try to be relatable and retain your relationship.
Right, right.
Because it's life's too short. Number one, number two is Singapore is too small lah.
For those who really want serious to go in and stay in the industry.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not your typical 9 to 5 jobs lah.
Yeah,
It's-
definitely.
It's not, and it shouldn't be, but I mean, on hindsight, it's really about being very self-aware. Yeah, so I just came from a discussion about workplace safety, the mental and psychological sort of like well-being of media practitioners. I think that's all the more important, right? So I think with that awareness, you need to understand yourself. While you push yourself, but then don't go too far. Or if you go too far, if you need a helping hand or listening ear, be mature, authentic, and vulnerable enough to share. Right? A lot of times, for practitioners, right, we don't want to appear too vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because if I cry to
Paiseh,
you,
yeah.
paiseh or don't know what, right? So I think the other idea maybe to share with the audience is try to build safe spaces for everybody to open up lah. Because I mean I think it's a long runway. Have trusted group of friends that you can rely on so that your mental health is good.
Yeah.
To keep
So-
you
Yeah.
in the game.
To keep you sane and in the game and understand that you don't have to make it a 9 to 9 job.
Right.
9 to 5, meet up with friends, blow off some steam, share some of your woes, get back to work.
So is it important to join all these like association or
I think there are many associations
Yeah.
right now. To each his own. I think as a practitioner, you must also evaluate what they can do for you. But I think it's good and high time to understand right now, right, that it's really a volume game. So it's a strength in numbers. If you can represent yourself and there is more than one person that shares the same value, so be it. Because a lot of ways into getting better practices in the industry is based on the fact that you need the numbers to prove it, right? If one person says that, this way of treating us is not good, it's just one person. But if there are 100 people saying that, people will take note. And it's understandable because it is an issue.
all right?
So, I would say, getting involved in associations is a first step.
Okay, that was a very good sharing session. Juan, thanks
you.
for all your experiences of 20 plus odd years.
Yeah.
Hopefully, with this kind of sharing, right, the industry can grow, help people to stay
Yes.
longer in
Must
the
love
in the
your own
industry.
local films or local
Yeah.
production, local products.
It's tough, but we
Yeah.
should do
But
it.
you can do
Yeah.
it. You guys did
We
it,
have to.
so I'm sure new
Yes.
generation will be able.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having
So
me.
we will see you guys again next episode of Muse Talks. Bye.